Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Season 3 of Le Frères Heureux. We're back once again.
Yeah.
We've done Season 1, done Season 2, now we're here for Season 3.
We are.
How exciting.
Yeah.
We've made it this far.
Yeah.
Didn't think we'd make it this far. I thought we'd get bored before now.
I thought so. Yeah.
Or
we would have had some kind of horrific fight and we would have had to stop.
There's still time. There's still time. There's plenty of episodes to go.
Yeah.
But no, I'm quite enjoying myself, and I'm enjoying going back through the series as well.
Yeah, I am.
It's good. I know we keep saying that you know.
It's strange how different my opinions are, I think, on some of the episodes.
I don't know if it's just with age or if it's just with sort of, we've said before, like looking through it with like a critical eye. Yeah. I don't know which it is. But I'm glad. I'm glad that it's keeping it fresh after watching it so many times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice seeing it through a kind of different viewpoint. It's, changing things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this season marks the first like big change in the show. Yeah. And that is Frasier's haircut.
Yeah, definitely.
It's weird that that sticks out so strongly because there's not a huge shift in the content of the series quite yet. I think season 3 still, it's maybe a little bit different in terms of sort of recurring characters.
Yeah.
And recurring arcs throughout the series. We've had less of that in the first couple.
We do have one big change coming up to the status quo.
That's true.
Of the
yeah,
show.
we do into the middle of season 3.
But yeah, Frasier's haircut is kind of like, it always makes me think of, I know that you're not really a fan of Star Trek, but there's something that people always say about Star Trek Next Generation is Riker, the second in command.
Yeah.
In the start of the second season of the show, he grows a beard. So if you're watching an episode and you see him with a clean face, it probably means the episode isn't very good.
Okay.
Because the first season's a bit rubbish. And it's not until and it's the same with Deep Space Nine, the later version of the show, where the captain grows a goatee and shaves his head. And that's like the point when the show gets good.
All right, okay.
Just by coincidence, that's when the show gets good, is when he grows a beard and shaves
maybe
his
facial
head.
hair is just a sort
maybe
inherit to good TV series.
Yeah.
Anyway. But Frasier, I don't know. I don't think Frasier necessarily gets good after season 3. I think it just shifts.
I don't mean that. I just mean, it makes me think that the tone of the show changes a little bit.
Bit of a change. And yeah, it's actually quite a strong series. I always think because it's kind of between 2 and 4, which I love.
Yeah.
I always think season 3's, not quite as good. Mm-hmm. But looking through, I had a quick look through the episode list.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's got some really good episodes on it.
Yeah, I can see where you would be coming from, thinking that it's a bit of a dip between the two, because season 4, I think, is probably better.
Yeah.
But there are still some great episodes.
Yeah, it really is.
We see, and we don't get it in this disc, but later on we see Kelsey Grammer's directorial debut.
We do.
And that's a great episode.
That's probably critically the best episode of the show.
I think it might be.
I don't think I would put it as my highest rated, but if you're looking at sort of accolades and the proper critics, not us podcast critics, it's probably looked very, very highly upon compared to other standouts of the series. But yeah, I mean, let's get stuck in. I don't know if you want to go over season 2 where we left off. There's not really much. There's not really
a cliffhanger.
Much to go. Yeah, there's not much.
There's like Frasier's kind of settled into his new life now.
Yeah, they don't really address that as much anymore.
Yeah, there's not as much like, oh, it's so difficult now that Dad's living with me. It's like, yeah, we've been there for 2 years.
This is his life now.
Yeah,
and he's just kind of getting on with it. They do. I think this does start a shift a wee bit towards Frasier's love life.
Yeah, there's probably more episodes that focus around that.
Yeah,
rather than,
the sort of him finding true love.
Yeah,
but I mean,
trying to at least.
It's definitely sort of a rise in those style of episodes, for better or for worse. I don't know.
Some of them are good. Some of them not so much.
But yeah, let's get stuck in. So, episode 1, disc 1, season 3.
Yeah,
she's the boss. She being Kate Costas, the new station manager for KACL. So somewhere between the end of season 2 and start of season 3, Tom, handsome Tom, has
we like Tom.
vamoosed.
Yeah, he's away.
And been replaced with Kate Costas, who is notorious in the radio game as being very strict, very firm, very good at her job.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Quite icy and cold in her decision making, and that concerns a lot of the employees. I mean, we start off the episode with Father Mike getting the sack.
Ooh, Father Mike.
Poor Father Mike.
Oh.
And that's the last we see of him as well.
I think it is. Actually, I looking at the IMDb page for this episode, they say that he presumably gets rehired at KACL, even though we don't see him again, because his picture reappears later on.
All right, okay.
You see like his poster in the corridor.
His headshot.
So I'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
maybe he does wind up getting rehired at some point.
Feels pretty harsh to fire Father Mike, but
yeah,
I guess if he's not bringing in the ratings, then oh well. But yeah, I mean, this first episode, it's all about. It kind of just gets straight back into it again. So like the start of season 2, there's not really a huge break other than Frasier's haircut. There's not really a huge difference in the tone of episodes.
No, not especially.
I wouldn't say. And there's definitely not much of a break almost.
I suppose not.
I don't know.
We dive into a lot of kind of career-heavy episodes. There's a lot of KACL episodes in the first
I was
half
thinking
of
that,
season 3.
I noticed that. There's a lot more appearances of the recurring KACL team. So Bulldog, Gil Chesterton, Noel Shemsky, and of course now Kate Costas as well. But yeah, we very quickly find in this first episode that Kate is going to be a big rival for Frasier.
Yeah.
She's, as I think she says in one of the later episodes, she's a woman, she's as smart as you, are, and she's your boss.
Yeah.
And that is reflected immediately. Like, I think
absolutely.
She's played by Mercedes Ruehl, who is an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
And it really shows in her performance, I think. I think this was about the time she won her Oscar. It was for The Fisher King. With Robin Williams.
That would have been around this time, yeah.
And I think it was about 93, 94, which is about when this episode came out. I don't know, this would be 95, wouldn't it? So it's maybe slightly after.
This would have been 95.
95.
Late 95.
But she's, if she's coming off the back of an Oscar win, she's obviously a pretty big name at the time.
She was very accomplished on the stage as well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if she'd ever really, she was in quite a few well-known films, but she wasn't like huge movie star. It was a lot of very acclaimed stage work, and a lot of the stuff she did in films was like very highly regarded. She just didn't do a lot. So clearly a very talented actress.
I mean, absolutely, and it shows.
She's great.
As soon as she's on screen. I never used to like Kate. As a character, I never used to like her. I don't know why. I didn't like the vibe of her being sort of big boss woman. Maybe showing some inherent sexism in my younger self, but I don't know. I'm
the opposite. I always like Kate.
You like powerful women, though.
I do like powerful women. I love a boss bitch, frankly.
Same with Lilith as well. I think there's a lot of parallels with Lilith.
Well, he does say at some point, I can't remember, sometime in the first couple of episodes now that Kate's been introduced, he says, on my part, the reason I don't like you is because you remind me of my ex-wife. And I think there's definitely, she's maybe a little bit less icy even than Lilith, but she's clearly that kind of very competent, very career-driven, very harsh, doesn't take any shit from Frasier, which is nice to see.
Immediately, the first we see of her in the episode, she puts Roz and Frasier onto the midnight shift because Frasier's pissed her off, basically. He doesn't like her ideas for the direction of his show. Challenges her, basically saying like, well, there's nothing you can do because I bring in the ratings. And she says, well, yes there is.
Captain Midnight.
And
he gets put on the graveyard shift.
Which it leads to some great scenes. Roz and Frasier just fed up, just completely.
They are completely
exhausted. And to the point of delirium, I think, later on, when they basically decide that they've had enough of it after a couple of nights. They've had enough of it. It's ruining Roz's sex life. Frasier's exhausted because he can't get sleep during the day.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, you know what? Let's just get sacked. Let's go out in a blaze of glory. Let's take her down. So they change the Dr. Frasier Crane show to the Dr. Sexy Crane show. Nah, I tried to do something there and it just
Sexy Crane Dr. Frasier sex show.
Dr. Sex MD. I bet that's a porno somewhere.
Oh God, it must be.
So he gets sort of, as you say, like the raunchy calls, and Frasier ends up stripping down in front of Roz, which is a bit weird.
It's weird that it's only in front of Roz.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it for the radio, so surely he could have just not stripped down
just said that
and said, "Oh, I've got my dick out," and without actually having to strip down. He's only doing it for Roz's benefit.
Yeah. But I mean, she doesn't complain. She rolls with it and just kind of they totally derail the show.
Yeah. And in the end, it gets exactly what they want, which annoys me. That they then have kind of held the show hostage. They go back to Kate and are like, "Oh well, how'd you like this?" And she kind of just she doesn't give in because she says, "Well, if I give you what you want, then you've won, and it's going to undermine my authority." So they have this whole show of Frasier pretends that he's reluctantly giving her what she wants when it's actually what he wants.
Yeah.
So he gets everything he wants in the end.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of a lesson learned for her. Do you not think that he is highly rated?
Yeah.
So he is going to get what he wants. Mm-hmm. And Frasier's he's not a pushover. Mm-hmm. You've got the other folk like Bulldog and Gil who are probably just suck-ups and would just kind of deal with it. Mm-hmm. But Frasier doesn't take it sitting down, Yeah. He kind of pushes back and he does. She saves face because she pretends to concede. Yeah. Or no, he pretends to concede to her.
Yeah.
As if it was her idea. But yeah, he gets what he wants in the end. And it's a good starting episode for their relationship.
It is. Yeah,
I think it shows their dynamic very well.
What's going on with them?
There's the B plot of the episode.
Oh,
is
the
great
B plot's
as well.
Hilarious.
Niles is what is it? Maris is at no, it's not the hospital. That's in the earlier series, is it not?
I can't even remember what it is.
Is
Maris away visiting family or something?
Maris is up
for whatever reason
to something.
It's
the neighborhood watch. Is it not?
The neighborhood watch are all summering in Acapulco.
Yeah, they're all away on holiday. So Maris is concerned about the neighborhood, and Niles wants to protect her. So he comes over, and in true Niles fashion, he just carries on this string of really amazing entrances to Frasier's apartment. And he rocks up and he says, hi. Yes, just came over, quick question. Dad, can I borrow your gun? And he just says it so deadpan and point blank. It's so funny. His delivery of that line is great. Martin, of course, declines because he's a sensible gun owner.
Yeah.
He does actually, because I think we spoke earlier that Martin is kind of alluded to be a bit Republican, a bit right-wing leaning, but he does specifically say he is very much against guns in the hands of civilians.
Yeah. Which is a good stance to have.
Yeah. Don't disagree.
Without getting into the whole politics of gun ownership. Like, the bottom line is if you're not trained in having a gun, if you've not gone through all this mandatory training that he would have as a policeman.
And Niles, obviously, the exact opposite. But he kind of ignores Martin's words of advice, goes out and he buys himself a little pistol, which is quickly revealed to just be a starter's pistol.
Yeah.
I never understood this joke when I was younger. I always thought a starter's pistol was like a beginner's gun.
Like a beginner's gun.
Like a gun for beginners.
Okay.
I thought it was like, my first gun kit. It never clicked for me.
That's funny.
That it was like a pistol for starting races.
Yeah. Okay.
As you don't really tend to do that anymore, I don't think. I don't know.
Do they do that at the Olympics? They might still do it at the Olympics.
Maybe.
I don't watch sporting events.
But, yes. But Daphne is quick to call him out because, as she says, when she first came to America, she worked in a convenience store. Yeah. So she's well aware of all the guns and everything. but it leads to this fantastic scene. Like, I love it so much. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. Niles rocking around with the starter's pistol in his hand, and he's kind of talking about, it doesn't matter that it's fake because it fooled all the servants, and I'm going to be responsible with it and whatnot. And then he pulls it down, and it goes off in his hand, and he leaps up onto the couch,
jumps onto the couch
in true David Hyde Pierce physical comedy top form. Just jumps onto the couch, and he's sort of totally shaken up. Martin doesn't realise what's happened either. And Frasier, who's working the night shift, runs through trying to get some sleep and is like, what's going on? Was that a gunshot? And his delivery of I didn't realise it would be too much to ask that there not be gunplay in my living room. Kelsey Grammer, his delivery of that line is just, it's iconic. It's so
hilarious.
Good.
Yeah,
we've mentioned his sort of Broadway theatrical screaming before, and it just gets better.
It's a
from
strength
here on
for
out.
him. It is.
But yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah.
Spoiler, I think that's going to be my highlight for this disc.
Yeah.
I think it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, it's a strong first episode. I quite like it.
Yeah.
It's not quite as good as the previous season's openers, but it sets up the Kate dynamic well, and she's going to be a recurring character for I mean, what, half of the season?
A little, kind of the first half of the season.
Niles, as always, great little B plot.
No, the B plot is great.
So yeah, I mean, I actually gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
I give it a 4. I think it's a pretty strong episode.
Yeah, I give it a 3.
Yeah, a 3. Okay.
I think for me it's just a bit more kind of a little more average. It's not quite as.
I did give it a 3 originally.
Not good enough to get a 4.
I did give it a 3 originally, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, you know what? I like Kate's performance. I like the KCL team. They're all great.
They are good.
Bulldog and Gil are throughout the episode sort of gradually popping up and trying to build up the courage to go and speak to Kate, and they wimp out every time.
It is very funny.
And I like their relationship. They're really funny together.
Yeah.
Is it?
We see them together a few times towards this.
Edward Hibbert
that
plays Gil, and Dan Butler. Their dynamic is wonderful. I love watching it. But yeah, it's good. It's a good opener. I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah. Grand.
Good
couple of
sorry, I was mocking you there. I don't think you noticed.
I did. Good couple of guest stars as well, since it's the show likes to drive home the point of, like, if it's a plot heavy episode and Frasier's kind of having difficulty at work, there'll be a lot of weird callers.
Yeah.
And when they have a lot of weird callers in one episode, they usually tend to kind of pull out all the stops and get a lot of big names.
Yeah.
So there's a few big names in this. You've got Matthew Broderick from Ferris Bueller's Day Off and War
Godzilla.
Games and Godzilla, Inspector Gadget, and
Deck the Halls.
Deck the Hall with Danny DeVito.
Yep.
Man,
That's a proper... Whoa.
I've not seen it. I don't know. It's probably...
It's an A-plus film, mate. That's a Christmas classic.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so he's in this. Carrie Fisher.
Oh, it's Carrie Fisher in
Princess
this?
Leia. She's the one... she's Phyllis, the insomniac. They have the kind of joke about Frasier falls asleep while listening to her talking about her insomnia. Terry Garr, who is a fantastic actress. I think she's really funny. She is Nancy, who calls in right at the point when they decide they're going to start being raunchy, and they ask her if she prefers to be the spanker or the spanky.
Yep.
She's really good. She's in Close Encounters, and she was in Tootsie.
Okay.
And she was in Young Frankenstein, which I know you've not seen.
I've not seen that.
Unfortunately, regrettably, because that's a great film.
Yeah.
She's really good in that. And finally, Keith, who is a baker. He talks about how important his job is
that's
before
right.
he goes and powders the jelly donuts. What is played by Tom Hulce? Hulce? Hulce. I'm not sure how Hulce. I'm not really actually sure. He voiced Quasimodo in the Disney Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
And he played Mozart in Amadeus.
Oh.
Quite a well-known role. So yeah, four
That's
pretty
big
famous
names.
actors, pretty big names. all brought in at once, which is, as I say, is what they do when they have like lots of callers in one episode. They tend to get a lot of famous names.
But I was going to say, I mean, I think there probably is an increase in the budget as well this season. You know,
there will have been.
You've had a couple of successful seasons of Frasier, and you're bringing in an Oscar winner right off the back of her Oscar win as a recurring character.
Mm-hmm.
All of the KACL team all the supporting cast are in it pretty consistently.
Yeah.
At least for the first half of the season with Kate. You can see the sets. There's some new sets built as well around the offices.
Yeah, you've got the Kate's office set. You've got the KACL like staff room set, which comes up again
a few times.
Quite a few times.
And then obviously with the guest callers as well. I mean, they're big names. So I
they
never really thought of that before.
The budget.
Yeah, they probably have had a bit of a bump.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, good.
Yeah.
The next episode, Shrink Wrap.
Yeah.
We spoke about before, or I think you mentioned it, and weren't sure where it fit in.
I couldn't remember. I didn't realize it was this.
Yeah, it's very soon. Off the back of,
the Innkeepers.
The Innkeepers.
Yeah,
I was going to say Le Frères, but that's not the name of the episode.
Yeah,
off the back of the Innkeepers. Yeah, the boys team up again.
Mm-hmm.
They're both so the episode is set up as a flashback. So it's Frasier and Niles in a therapist's office.
Yeah.
We later find out to be Niles' neighbour, I guess.
I guess someone else in the same office.
Same office as him. And they're in sort of couples therapy, I guess. And the whole episode is told through flashbacks. Basically how they ended up there.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, pretty unique for the show. It's the first time we've done an episode like that. It's obviously common in sitcoms and stuff, but
I can think of maybe one or two other times they do an episode like that, but it's not something they do a lot.
No, definitely not. But yeah, this is another tale of, I mean, they should know how it goes by now.
They should.
And Martin warns them, and he even brings up, nope, the dog is getting frisky with his leg.
Yep.
With his own leg. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Martin mentions it didn't work when you tried to write the book. It didn't work when you tried to open the restaurant. Why are you thinking it's going to? So they're trying to go into private practice together.
Yeah.
Or Frasier's trying to get back into private practice in the same office as Niles, and they decide they're going to kind of do group counselling together and seminars together.
Yeah, I didn't. So this episode kind of, I don't really understand what their agreement was.
Well, yeah, they set up that there's the reason that Frasier moves in is because there's the other psychiatrist in like the neighboring office.
Yeah, his lease is up and Niles wants rid of him.
Frasier was going to take that office.
Yeah.
But then they actually, when he starts working there, he's in the same office as Niles.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Maybe
I
just
don't
a bit
know.
of inconsistency, I guess.
I don't know. It's just, but there's a couple other inconsistencies as well. Like, what the hell Frasier's doing with his KCL job.
Yeah.
Does he quit his job? It's left a wee bit ambiguous because Niles keeps making cracks as if he's still a radio psychiatrist on the side.
Yeah.
But Frasier kind of alludes to the fact that he's quit his old job and this is his new job in private practice.
Yeah.
And they don't really confirm or deny what is going on. So is he working part-time?
Who knows?
I guess part-time, or did he quit his job? Because he would get it back the next episode.
Yeah.
He's back in the radio station, so...
It makes sense that it'd be part-time. If he's only working I think it's 2 till 5 is his usual slot at KACL. So like a 3-hour shift, isn't? You can very easily see a couple of patients in the morning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I mean, I quite like it. It's quite fun. I like the inconsistencies with the two of them telling their own side of the story.
Yeah.
And they sort of alter it to fit their own views.
Yeah.
So like
It is funny.
Frasier alters it so that Roz is complimenting him and talking very highly of him. Niles,
Which she would never do.
Niles alters it slightly so that Daphne is sort of acting out this sex scene.
Yeah.
She's got a neighbour that's bothering her and wants to show them how it's done, I guess.
It's weird. Very weird.
It's a bit of a strange scene. It must have been fun to film. But yeah, and the psychiatrist, the couples therapist, kind of reels them back in through these sort of flashbacks and mini flashbacks.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes as well as you'd expect.
Oh yeah.
To be honest,
They get into a fight during a group therapy session. Frasier throws a potted plant out the window, which I think that's escalating it a bit far.
I think Frasier is completely out of line this whole episode.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Definitely.
Niles is the private practitioner and Frasier is not.
Yeah.
So he's getting back into it. And the first thing that they kind of fall out over is Niles offering him some textbooks and stuff.
Yeah.
To get him up to speed.
It's not even just that. It's like case files of the patients that Frasier is going to be helping, which he would need to have studied pretty meticulously. So, yeah, it's definitely not unreasonable to ask him.
Absolutely.
Frasier's
kind of
very
sees it as a sort of a, oh, you're not as good as me, you need to brush up kind of thing. But I think that's reasonable considering he's not been in private practice for, at least 2 years. Yeah. If not more. And then Frasier runs away with the men's room key as well, which again is, I mean, that could end badly.
It could. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then during their therapy session, they do the group therapy session, the two of them together, and Niles has obviously got a rapport with all these people.
Yeah.
And Frasier's just kind of interrupting him and giving his second opinion on everything.
Which he presumably isn't very informed, considering he refused to read up on their case histories. So
I think he's the bad guy in this episode.
Definitely. But yeah, in the end, they try and do some trust falls. It doesn't work because they do not trust each other.
It does not work.
Their couples therapist tells them to give up on each other, which is probably pretty good advice. I mean, they seem to get along a lot better when they're not.
It's when they're not working together.
So I think maybe telling them to just never see each other again is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But saying just don't work together is definitely good advice.
Yeah. But it turns out that the psychiatrist or therapist or whoever is not quite as he seems. He's got a degree from an undergrad from Granada University, which is apparently in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Grenada.
And
then his postgrad was Aruba.
The University of Aruba.
So, he's perhaps not the most qualified person in the world to be giving advice. And then the boys decide to make up over lunch.
Yes.
Even if they can't decide where to go.
Of course.
Shay or... I can't remember the other place. Shay comes up again.
They probably,
Which I always think is a really funny name because it's just house in French.
Yeah. The house of houses.
But it's
international Shay of pancakes.
It's not. Is it still IHOP? Did they not change it? Is it not
I think
IHOP?
they changed it.
It's not International
IHOP.
House of Breakfast now.
Oh, they might have done, yeah.
Or was that a joke?
I don't know. It might have been a joke.
I thought they did that, and then everyone got mad, so they changed it.
We don't have IHOP.
We don't have IHOP here.
Do we have any? Is there one through in Glasgow?
No, I don't think so.
There's a Taco Bell in Aberdeen.
Yeah.
I almost had it when I was really hungover, and then I thought maybe I shouldn't.
That's probably an awful food for when you're hungover.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, right. Reel it back in. So what did you think?
Yeah, I'm not that big on this episode. It is funny seeing the two of them bickering, but there's not really an awful lot of... Like, the strength of the show is always the dialogue.
Yeah.
And there isn't a huge amount of really funny dialogue in this because there's so much that's just focusing on them, like, arguing and bickering, and it's just constant back and forth between them. There's not a lot of room for, like, the usual witty jokes and the well-written quips. That is what I usually love about the show. So, it doesn't really hit home for me, honestly.
I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah. So what are you thinking in terms of how many
In
cups
terms of
coffee?
numbers, I'd give it a 2.
A 2. Okay.
Because I don't think it's a bad episode. I like the setup. I think it is funny seeing them try to work together, and there are definitely the occasional few lines that are really funny, as always, but yeah, it just... Overall, it's not a great one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, especially when you compare it to the previous episodes,
Yeah.
where they work together.
Mhm.
You know, author, and the innkeepers are two of, you know,
They're
the best episodes of the show.
both 5s.
Whereas,
I think we both unanimously gave them 5s.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Whereas this episode's definitely it is lacking a bit in the sort of snappy humor between the leads. So yeah, I'm happy with a lower rating for that.
yeah.
Did we have a guest caller?
There's one right at the beginning.
There is one right at the beginning.
Yes. Jill, who has a recurring dream about seeing a girl in her window, and there's a whole thing about, you know, the girl behind the glass has a message while Roz is trying to...
Oh, she's trying to get his attention.
Trying to get Frasier's attention. Is voiced by Blair Brown, which isn't a name that I recognised, and I was looking through things she was in, and she's been in quite a few famous things, but nothing that I really knew her from. She was in Orange is the New Black.
Oh.
Did you watch that much?
I did watch Orange is the New Black.
Did you watch all of it?
I didn't watch the last season.
Okay. She played Judy King,
Um,
who I think she's introduced in about season 3. I don't think I got that far. I think I only watched the first season or so.
I don't really remember the names.
She was apparently based on Martha Stewart. She was kind of a, I don't know, like a, and then she kind of became the villain of season 4.
She's
apparently.
She's like the celebrity that gets arrested. Yeah, she gets arrested for like tax evasion or something, and they all love her. And she kind of doesn't really fit in with everyone else. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So, yeah, her, Blair Brown.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm going to quickly bring it up because I think my numbers have got out of whack. Do you know what the next episode is?
The next episode is Martin Does It His Way.
It is, okay. I panicked. And
See, when I
wrote
wrote them down, I actually was writing them down by memory, and I missed Martin Does It His Way. Which is terrible. Because it's a good episode. I do like this episode. But I skipped straight ahead to the next episode. And I forgot about this one. But there you go. Yeah, Martin Does It His Way is quite good. Definitely has a lot of good bits in it.
The title, obviously, a play on My Way by Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
Which does tie into the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Frasier's Aunt Louise has died.
Poor old Aunt Louise.
Yeah, who apparently no one liked very much.
Yeah.
Frasier and Niles are both put in charge of, well, delivering the eulogy at the funeral and scattering the ashes. And they start talking about, you know, not being able to live your dreams, you know, not being courageous enough to do that thing that you've always wanted to do. And it gets revealed that Martin he's been writing songs throughout his life to try and send off to Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
But he's never really finished them. And then, you know, we kind of focus on that. Frasier and Niles help him finish the song. He sends it away. And then we kind of end on this nice note when they go to the funeral. They go to Aunt Louise's funeral. And Frasier has given this song that Martin has written to the choir. And they sing it, and that's kind of how the episode ends. It's very nice having them sing that.
I like it. It's a really good song as well.
It's a very catchy.
The lyrics are a bit...
They're a bit silly and
funny.
a bit cheesy. You can tell that the writers were not experienced songwriters. They kind of came up with the first lyric and then the second lyric. They were like, okay, what rhymes with lady? Heidi Heidi.
Yeah.
You know? Shooby dooby.
It sounds like your heart is always going Heidi Heidi, Ringy Dingy, or Scooby Dooby. But no, it is good. I love watching any time the boys are around the piano.
Yes, it is great.
Wonderful.
There's
to
lots
watch.
of good jokes with the kind of trying to get the lyrics finished off, and kind of the songwriting and Martin's very unique style of humming or sing. I don't even know what you'd call it. Shouting, really.
Yeah, just trying to like make noises.
Yeah.
On how he envisages. I'm gonna try that again. How he envisages.
Envisions?
Envisions.
I don't think envisages is a word.
I'm envisaged by this conversation. How he envisions the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of rambling. It's like scatting.
yeah, I guess.
But it's a sweet episode.
It is a nice episode. There's a lot of like the kind of emotional element of like, you know, living your dreams and like taking a chance and doing something, and like maybe it doesn't work out, you know, in the end Martin gets his song rejected.
He does. It's a shame. It all kind of, the one thing that annoys me a wee bit is it all kind of revolves around Martin wanting to send the song away to Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
But Frank isn't going to take songs from some random person.
Yeah. I don't know if, is it like, I always kind of assumed watching this when I was younger and not really knowing anything about Frank Sinatra, that there was like a whole, he had a program where you could send him songs. I can't imagine.
Maybe he does. I don't know.
Because I know that a lot of the stuff he does is like, you know, the Great American Songbook. You know, it's all stuff that was not written for him, but just songs that were written that he then performed.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that someone would send him a song and ask him to sing it for them.
I mean, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could like find a musician's agent and send music into them saying, "Oh, hey, would you be interested in buying this off me?" But I think the chances of them coming back and saying, "Yeah, absolutely," are pretty slim.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Martin seems quite confident and like expectant that he's going to get a positive response from Frank Sinatra. And it just seems strange to me that he's usually so grounded in reality.
Gets his hopes up.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And it's a shame.
It is. But it's a nice song, and yeah, the way that Frasier kind of tributes the eulogy to him. Yeah. Because nobody liked Aunt Louise anyway.
Yeah,
so
no, that's true.
That's
true.
And yeah, the big choir singing it at the end is really lovely. I really love it. Yeah, it's a nice little episode. It feels quite a short episode. It feels quite the middle section where they're writing the song and discussing Martin's lyrics and stuff takes up most of the episode. Yeah, and that's kind of, I don't want to say shoehorned. It's not shoehorned. It's kind of, it sits between a very brief opening scene in KCL and the scene at the end where they're disposing of the ashes. Yeah, unfortunately over themselves, which is gross. And and then at the church at the end, it just, I don't know. That middle scene feels very long.
It is quite long. Yeah, definitely.
Compared to usual. But it's nice, and yeah, watching everyone sing and Martin getting his lyrics finally behind some sheet music is he seems so happy about it. It's really nice to see. So I think you said earlier when we were briefly discussing it that this might have been your highest rated of the disc. Yeah, because I almost gave it a 4. Almost, but not quite. But then didn't settle on a 4. Okay. In the end, I think it's a 3 because it's not. I was tempted to give it a 4. I think because it's the best of this disc. But I don't really think it's deserving of a 4. I think there's a lot of, it's very slow. There are some very good jokes in it, but it doesn't really feel this. It doesn't have that like nice kind of laugh a minute sort of, you know. I know what you mean. Funny dialogue. Yeah, and I pretty much similar line of thought to you. It doesn't have quite that snappy dialogue that a lot of the sort of later season 2 episodes had. I can't help but think that if we had this episode a little bit sooner, it might have been done a bit differently. Yeah, I don't know. It's just with this shift of tone in season 3. Well, not really, but like this sort of, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it just feels different. The start of season 3 feels different to end of season 2, even though the content of the episodes is largely a continuation. Yeah, there's not a significant break or anything. There's no cliffhanger. But just the tone of the episode seems just slightly different. No, I get you. I can see where that's coming from. So yeah, I think if it had been done a wee bit earlier, it might have been a bit different. Yeah. But I don't know. We'll never know. Never know. But I agreed with you. I said 3 out of 5 as well. Yeah. And I think Martin really holds up this episode. With John Mahoney's performance.
Yeah, it is good.
Is just really lovely, and seeing him actually care about something, because he's normally so sort of indifferent and just
it takes a bit
laid back
to convince him to even tell the boys about his secret of writing songs.
Yeah, and of course, she's such a groovy lady. It's just such a good song.
It is. It's a nice little.
It's just a really nice
little
song.
jam.
It's fun.
Yeah. We did have there's a guest call right at the beginning. Eileen talks about how she's when she's having sex with her husband, she pictures someone else.
And
then Frasier kind of says, "Oh, well, picturing a movie star or an athlete or whatever is fine." She goes like, "Oh, what about a radio psychiatrist?"
Yeah.
And she fancies Frasier. Is voiced by Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
It's a mouthful.
It is, yeah. She was in The Abyss.
Oh.
The one by the guy's name's completely slipped my mind. What's his name? The guy that did Avatar. James Cameron.
Yeah.
James Cameron. And I was going to say John Carpenter. It's not John Carpenter.
John Carpenter's The Abyss.
The Abyss. And she was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, okay.
I think she was Maid Marian in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Yeah.
Sure.
There you go.
That scene's actually really good. I really love that scene. And that's the kind of almost meta addressing of Frasier's haircut as well. Roz does a little
she does,
sort of fake buffing of Frasier's. Buffing's not the word.
Well, she kind of starts talking him up. I guess she's
sort of talking him up,
talking about how handsome he is,
and describes like, he's wearing his hair short these days, which just accentuates his big blue eyes. But then she comes through the room, and Frasier sort of asks, "Is that really how you see me?" And she does her whole blank face,
completely deadpan, winding him up.
Which is actually very attractive, the way that she's talking to him. And then she like sits on his lap as well and winds him up. I'm like, oh, Peri Gilpin.
Yeah,
such a lovely lady.
She is.
Yeah, I do. I just love Roz.
Roz is fantastic. She's not really in this episode very much.
She's not in the start of the season a whole lot, actually. She's
that's true, actually.
Scenes, but she's not had much of a focus.
Looking at the episodes, so she's in a few, in kind of the next episode, which we will, I suppose, get into now. Leapin Lizards.
She is in this a bit more.
Features Roz quite a bit. And then the final episode of The Disc as well, she's in quite a bit. But beyond that, she's kind of just briefly appears here and there.
Sort of opening or closing scenes, and that's it.
That's about it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. She gets more screen time as the show goes on.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more the better.
Yeah.
Give us more Roz.
No, definitely.
Give us our spin-off with Roz.
Oh, I'd be into that, actually.
I'd be into that. That'd be really good.
I'd like a workplace comedy spin-off.
I would watch
Roz. That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so Leapin Lizards, we kind of go back into this subplot of Frasier and his conflict with Kate.
Yep.
He's at work and he keeps getting pranked by Bulldog.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Which is so funny.
Great.
The pranks are so good as well.
Bulldog pretends to be a caller on his show and puts on a pretty sketchy Australian accent. I wouldn't say it's not offensive.
No.
I mean, I guess it is a bit.
It could be.
It's very bad.
But it's just kind of to cover up his own voice, I think.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Calls in and kind of leads him on and winds him up. And then later on calls him during his own show, Bulldog's show, calls Frasier at home.
Yeah.
Pretending to be a Dr. Julius Irving.
He's got a very nasally voice.
And he kind of sticks out his jaw. So he's got like big underbite.
Dr. Julius Irving.
Did you recognize the name Dr. Julius Irving? Oh, I don't know if I'm guessing he's not actually a doctor. But Julius Irving was a basketball player.
All right, okay.
An athlete of some sort.
That would make sense, I suppose.
His nickname was Dr. J.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing is where he got the name from. He actually is
quite clever.
Guest caller in, I think it's the beginning of season 4. There's an episode where Frasier fills in for Bulldog briefly.
All right.
And he calls in and asks him something about a sport asks him a sports question, and then Frasier doesn't know the answer or says something stupid. He goes, "Oh, what a weenie!"
Yeah, I
That's
know what you're talking about.
Julius Erving.
Okay,
so
okay.
the real Julius Erving. Anyway, so he calls in and he says that he's from the club and he's looking for Niles because he wants to settle a bet about the Mikado. And he asks Frasier if he knows the lyrics to Three Little Maids, which Frasier then sings on the air, which is very funny.
You always quote this line, and it's the line where Frasier says that he knows the Mikado because he performed it in prep school.
Because people still ask to see my yum yum.
Yeah, and you always quote that. You quote it.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really funny.
I think it's a great line. So yeah, he gets humiliated on the air.
Well, yeah.
Goes in to kind of argue with Kate about it. And then when Kate walks in and says, "What's Yum Yum doing here?" I always find that really funny. Because she is just so... Mercedes Ruehl is great with the kind of deadpan humor as well.
But she's obviously very educated as well, and she knows these jokes.
Yeah.
You know, like Bulldog wouldn't say, "What's Yum Yum doing here?" because he doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
He's got no clue. Whereas Kate does.
Is familiar with
She makes a
Gilbert
joke about
Sullivan.
the HMS Pinafore as well.
Oh yeah, yeah,
she
does.
Another play. She makes a joke about that as well, and so she knows she's on his level in terms of intelligence, if not higher.
They even argue about classical music in the first episode.
They do,
and I hope that you were paying attention. After last week's bonus episode, I've been thinking about my music quiz for you, so I hope you were paying attention.
I've never listened to Bartok in my life.
No, well, I mean, at least if you know it.
Okay.
Yes. So Kate kind of says, what you should really be doing is fighting back against Bulldog. I don't expect you to just be humiliated on air. I want, if he's going to make jokes at you, you make jokes back in your own way, in your droll Ivy League, look at me, I've got a thesaurus way. Kind of expecting him to, because he does. I mean, Frasier has, on more than one occasion, someone will make a crack at him, and he usually says something very witty and scathing back.
But
he decides this time, for whatever reason, to take the low road.
But as Martin says in the episode, he says and sort of concedes, I guess, that Frasier is very clever. He is very witty, but he's not funny.
Yeah.
And Martin has this difference in his head. Like, funny is sort of like makes you laugh out loud.
Yeah.
It's the sort of lower humor that Bulldog's into.
Makes you laugh with your gut.
Whereas Frasier's humor is very highbrow, very witty retorts, you know? And that's the difference. And he's not wrong.
No, he's absolutely right.
He's not wrong. But yeah, as you say, Frasier tries to
take the low road.
Sink to Bulldog's level and
puts a lizard in. So Bulldog's doing a draw, like a raffle, I guess.
Yeah.
For, was it tickets? He's giving tickets, season ticket giveaway or
tickets
whatever.
For a game.
And has this big box that he's pretending is like a drum full of tickets. And Frasier, well, he gets Ross to do it, but Frasier puts a lizard in the box because he knows that Bulldog hates lizards.
It's a big lizard as well.
Yeah.
See, whenever I think of it, like in my head, when I think of this episode, I'm thinking like a little
dinky lizard.
The little one that you would see on holiday climbing up the wall, just a tiny little thing. You see when you see it scurrying off down the hallway, it's a big thing.
It's like an iguana.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's giant.
And yeah, perhaps inevitably tragedy ensues.
Yeah. Kate goes into the booth when Bulldog's doing the draw, and she gets asked to put her hand in the box and draw a ticket. And then when she puts her hand in, the lizard bites off her fingertip.
Poor Kate.
Oh yeah, she's just
wrong place, wrong time.
Is it any wonder that she? I mean, spoilers for the next disc, but is it any wonder that she leaves? She shows up. She gets undermined at every turn by some Harvard jackass who thinks he knows everything. Yep. No one listens to her. People act like she's a Nazi for doing her job.
They call her Nazi and nylons.
She gets her fingertip bitten off by a lizard.
Yeah.
You know? Like, ugh, yeah. So, yeah, the final scene is then her in the hospital. Frasier goes in to confess. She's kind of in and out of consciousness because she's been drugged with all these
morphined.
Painkillers. But yeah, it's a shame seeing her suffer, really. Like, this kind of... She gets dragged into this stupid prank.
This little rivalry. She did get herself into the middle of it by encouraging Bulldog to continue.
That's true.
After Frasier complains, she kind of says, well, it's good for ratings, so just Bulldog carry on, don't stop.
Yeah.
So she kind of did get herself in the middle of it. I'm not saying she deserves to have her finger bitten off.
No, but she does get into the middle of it, you're right.
But there's some really great moments in this episode. Niles' first meeting with Kate as well.
Yes.
Did you look it up?
I have, yeah.
You looked it up? Yeah,
so
did I.
What he says.
So he is going to see some Japanese antiquities display at the local museum.
Yeah.
And he bumps into Kate and they introduce each other and he says where he's going and she's like, oh, it's really wonderful. I saw it in Kyoto, but they're not allowing any of the really nice pieces out of the country. And Niles looks really sort of defeated. He borrowed Frasier's membership card, so hands that back to him, and he says something in Japanese.
Yeah.
To Kate.
Imaimashi Chikusho.
Which, if Reddit is to be believed, is the only place I could find it, translates roughly to annoying beast.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Obviously talking to Kate, but she speaks Japanese.
Yes. I was expecting it to be a little bit more raunchy.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have gotten away with it if it's in another language. If they had said something really, really horrible, but...
Yeah, I don't know. If anyone speaks Japanese and can help us out, that would be very much appreciated. If you can give us a more accurate translation. But yeah, I like that little scene. And I like Bulldog's insults as well. You see, there's a little segment, maybe a minute or so, of Bulldog doing his show.
Yeah.
And he's obviously the same format as Frasier. He takes calls and he does sports rather than advice.
Yeah.
But you've got a few callers that call in and they don't really know what to say. They don't get straight to the point. So Bulldog just hangs up on them.
Yeah.
And then one calls in and says, I can't remember what it is exactly, but he says something about like the local football team or whatever. And Bulldog says, like, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Why don't you take your 2 IQ points, rub them together, and try and start a fire?
Yeah.
And I just love his delivery of that line and his scathing insult.
Yeah.
It's so good.
They're taking names for the Seattle NHL team.
That's right.
Seattle hockey team.
No, is it? Oh, it's the under... or league, I think.
Yeah, or whatever it is. But they're looking for a new team is getting started up, and they're suggesting names. Apparently, in the end, when the team was founded, they were called the Seattle Kraken.
That's the NHL team, though.
Oh, okay. Maybe there's a.
And they were only started last year.
Well, there you go.
I know my hockey.
Yeah, you do know your hockey a lot more than me, but I didn't. Yeah.
No, so
this is a fact that was on IMDb, so I don't.
Yeah, so that was. Well, I mean, to be fair, that they might have been running longer, and they only just got into the NHL. They might have been running on like a lower league.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I'll do my research before I claim to know too much about it.
Yeah. But yeah. So the two... Frasier doesn't really have any calls in this one. Well, he has a call from Bulldog, but he doesn't have any guest calls. No. But Bulldog has two, which are both very big names. Billy Crystal.
Oh, yeah.
From When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride and Monsters, Inc. Voice of Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc. He calls in, and I think he just kind of calls in and says, "You're the greatest, Bulldog. I love you so much." And Bulldog says, "Yeah, shut up." F off. Which is really funny that's how Bulldog treats his callers. And also Ed Harris from Apollo 13 and The Truman Show. Yeah, Ed Harris is really good. Interesting fact that I have here about Ed Harris. I suppose it's not really just about him. Ed Harris was in Apollo 13. Mm-hmm. He played Gene Kranz, who was the real NASA flight director. Mm-hmm. He has... I don't know how many people are going to be able to picture this, but if you picture like NASA mission control flight director,
Yeah.
there's this really stereotypical image of a guy with like a flat top haircut wearing a waistcoat that gets mimicked a lot in like cartoons or whatever. If you see like a shot of what's supposed to be like Mission Control, there'll be the character that always looks like that.
Okay.
And that's like Gene Kranz. That was his like unique look. He was like a real person, and that's modeled after. So he's this kind of like iconic figure. So Ed Harris played him. He was also played by Dan Butler in an HBO miniseries called From the Earth to the Moon.
How's that?
Which is like a few years later. So the two of them both played the same real life person.
Degrees of separation.
Yeah.
How about that?
I thought that was pretty interesting.
I think that is quite interesting. I like those little facts.
Yeah.
They're good to know. But no, good episode. Quite strong.
Yeah, I think so.
It's quite funny. The pranks, but I mean, Dan Butler as Bulldog is just always a treat.
Yeah.
Whenever he gets more than a scene of screen time, it's so fun to watch. And just taking Frasier down a peg.
Yeah. He's clearly very good at his pranks.
Yeah. So I gave this 3 cups of coffee.
I also gave it a 3.
I think it is good, and it's a strong 3.
Yeah.
And you know, Kate and Frasier's dynamic kind of reinforced again here. But the actual plot of the episode is a bit boring.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not really much to it.
Yeah, I guess it has this whole big idea of like the kind of prank war that needs a lot of building up.
Yeah.
And I think maybe similar to the other episode I mentioned earlier, the kind of the dialogue maybe suffers a bit for it. There's still, I think there's still some really good bits in it. It just, doesn't really shine when compared to a lot of other episodes.
Yeah. 3 out of 5 is good though. It's good. It's certainly a pretty strong disc. Stronger than I remember it being. You know, things like Leapin Lizards and She's the Boss, I always ranked quite lowly, quite low in my head.
Yeah.
But rewatching them, they're actually not bad at all. They're pretty decent episodes.
Yeah.
So 3. Quite happy with 3. Kisses Sweeter Than Wine is the next episode.
It is.
I love this episode.
Yeah.
I think this is a very good episode. I think it's very, very strong. And I think it kicks off a lot of sort of recurring segments for probably the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Well, for the next few seasons at least. We have the introduction of Joe, who will become Daphne's boyfriend. And he is a recurring character. I think he's only in 2 episodes, but he's mentioned a lot
throughout the season. Yeah.
And we also have sort of Niall's feelings for Daphne being made very, very abundant here. Which again is something that, not to give too much away for the next disc, it has implications outside of just his and Daphne's friendship. So this episode kind of kicks off quite a lot. And even after Joe, I think Daphne's relationships with people is sort of a constant thing after this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is brought up a couple of times.
We hear about her dating, and we don't really, well, I suppose you briefly see, because she dates the guy from Eric from Cafe Nervosa. But you don't see him like as Daphne's boyfriend.
No. And there's the other guy later on in the season 2 when she goes on the 3 dates with him.
Yeah.
But that's all
like they have
off-screen.
References to boyfriends, but they don't. You never really see them.
Yeah.
So,
but there's a few times after this that you do actually see them and get to know them a bit better. Rough plot of this one is basically Frasier is hosting the wine club for a lot of very select guests as well. And the apartment just kind of collapses around him. Yeah. Not literally. Well, kind of literally. They drop Martin's chair while trying to move it out of the room. And Frasier is so up in arms about this little scratch on the hardwood floor that he hires a contractor, Joe, to come and fix it. I think Joe previously worked with Maris and Niles on their flat or whatever.
Yeah.
But in fixing that, they discover an electrical fault. In fixing the electrical fault, they discover a gas leak, and they have to turn the water off, and it's all just this sort of snowball of disaster.
Yeah.
But in the midst of this, we have Daphne and Joe kind of flirting a little bit while he's working, and she's bringing him coffee and iced tea and sticky buns. Honey bun. Is it honey buns?
Yeah.
They have this nice little moment where they're
Those buns.
Honey bun and sugar. He calls her sugar. It's just sort of silly, flirty things.
Yeah.
But while this is happening, Niles takes note and sabotages it. So he tells Daphne that Joe is a bit of a ladies' man, a bit of a player, and not really interested in a relationship, which is a complete lie.
Yeah.
And I don't like Niles in this episode. It's as much as I love Niles as a character, he's so cruel.
He is normally very principled, and he's being a bit of a bit of a cock.
There's the return of his nosebleeds as well, which was mentioned in Can't Buy Me Love.
Yeah.
When Frasier has his moral objections, he gets physically sick, and Niles gets nosebleeds.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a running gag throughout this episode. And it's, you know what, it's a good way of adding a bit of physical comedy into the scene. Because you can show that once you've established that he gets a nosebleed when he does something wrong, you can then add that in to the scene, and you don't need to make it explicitly clear every time. And you know what David Hyde Pierce is like. He'll add little gestures and things.
Yeah.
So him like holding his nose or sort of sniffing adds like this nice extra layer of comedy.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And it even happens later on in some episodes that they don't remind you of.
No, they don't even need to set up the whole nosebleed thing.
Yeah.
It just it happens.
Which is really nice. I like when things like that, just like little characteristics are remembered, whether that was by the actor or the writers, I don't know, but it's nice when that happens. And yeah, I mean, that's the episode in a nutshell. Eventually, towards the end, Niles concedes that he will have to see Daphne with another man eventually, and he graciously gets them together, gets her and Joe together.
Yeah.
But too little too late, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think what he did was pretty out of line. I mean, he straight up lied about Joe to Daphne.
If it weren't for the fact that Bruce, the large sweaty gentleman with the chili dogs on his breath, happened to have coincidentally been working for the same person that Niles claimed Joe was having an affair with. Yeah. Which is a very roundabout, very convoluted kind of lie. Yeah. Very coincidental. Coincidental. Then he would have just had to tell the truth to Daphne, and he would have had to say, no, I misled you on purpose because I'm in love with you, which wouldn't have ended well at all.
And it's very explicit as well in Frasier and Martin's understanding of what's going on. They both make it clear at various points throughout the episode that they know he's in love with Daphne. Yeah. Which is kind of, they have talked about it before, but they've never really addressed his behavior. Yeah. To a huge extent. And here, Frasier explicitly says, you can't just keep loving her from afar. You need to admit that, you need to accept that someone else is going to be with her eventually. Yeah. And that's what kind of tips him into making it right. And Joe and Daphne seem pretty good together.
Yeah, they make a good pair. They've got a lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
They're together for a while.
Quite a while, yeah.
About a year, probably.
If not longer, yeah. I don't remember exactly when it is.
It's kind of beginning of season 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact episode. I don't know if I do. But yeah, it's around the start of season 4. Joe's kind of phased out a little bit. Yeah. But no, it's a very simple episode It's almost a bottle episode if it weren't for that scene at the start in KCL.
No, that's true. Yeah.
It's all set in the apartment as the work is going on, as Daphne and Joe are flirting, as Niles is sabotaging, blah, blah, blah. It's all set in the apartment. And I really like that. I really like a bottle episode.
Yeah.
It's not some... I think I can think of... Off the top of my head, I can think of one other time that Frasier does it. Frasier the show, not the person.
Yeah. Does a proper bottle episode.
And that is a proper bottle episode.
Yeah.
That is set completely in the apartment. And that's a very good episode as well.
Yeah.
I really love that.
A little while away before we get to that.
It's quite a while, yeah.
Actually, when is it? That's
season 6.
Is it season 6?
Middle of season 6, yeah. So yeah, and I like that because it gives each of the actors a chance to shine. All the leads are good. You know, it's nice seeing Daphne get a bit more screen time. Obviously, David Hyde Pierce is just you can't praise him enough.
As always, he's great.
I hate kind of just saying how great everyone is because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
When you watch it, and I don't like to ramble on about it, but it really is, and especially episodes like this. They just have a chance to shine because there's not a lot else going on. So it's all based on dialogue. It's all based on their performance. And I really love that.
Yeah.
Really love that.
We did have a good guest call from the beginning.
We did.
Right at the start.
We did. I know this one.
Yeah. Marilyn calls in claiming that she's feeling upset because she recently moved to Seattle from Wisconsin and she misses the small town life in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And then kind of bonds with Roz. I hope that they stayed friends.
That'd be nice.
Maybe they stayed friends.
That'd be nice.
She is voiced by Brooke Adams, who is a great actress who was in a lot of kind of 70s, 80s horror movies. Well, that's what I know her from. She was in lots of other things as well.
This is not the guest actor I thought it was.
No?
Nope. I think I'm thinking of the next
episode. You might be thinking of the one in the next episode. No, Brooke Adams was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She's the kind of female lead in the 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She was in The Dead Zone, opposite Christopher Walken. She's Christopher Walken's fiance who...
Oh, yeah.
Well, then he's in a coma and she
remarried.
Gets married to someone else. She's also briefly appears in The Stuff. I don't know if... Have you seen The Stuff?
I've never seen it. I know what it's like the Blob knockoff.
It's like the Blob, but they sell the Blob as ice cream. It's a weird film. It's good. I like the Blob. The Stuff, rather. Yeah, she's in that. She calls in. So she is not from Wisconsin. Brooke Adams isn't from Wisconsin.
Okay.
But there are some people who speculate that this call might be a bit of a joke at the expense of her husband, Tony Shalhoub.
Oh, she's married to Tony Shalhoub?
She's married to Tony Shalhoub.
Interesting.
He actually appears in person as a guest at the end of this season. I believe it's the end of this season.
He does.
He's in this. He is from Wisconsin.
Oh.
And they got married a few years before this. And there's some people who think that this might potentially be a bit of a kind of joke at his expense, being a bit of a joke. Kind of country hick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So there you go.
So what did you think of Kisses Sweeter Than Wine?
I've gone back and forth on it because I don't know if I think it's that good. To be totally honest, it's kind of a 2 for me. What do you think? Is that a really highly rated one for you?
I almost gave it a 5.
Almost gave it a 5.
I've settled for a high 4.
Okay.
I've settled for a high 4. I don't like basing episodes on other episodes, but at the same time, there are other episodes with a similar sort of setup, you know, with Daphne finding a new romantic interest and Niles kind of being jealous and Frasier off doing something completely different. The same kind of setup that do it a lot better later on. So I kind of marked it down a wee bit for that. But it's a really strong episode. I love it. I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
I think Joel kind of steps in and vibes really well with everyone.
Yeah, he does. He fits in quite well.
Kind of calls Frasier out for his pompousness. When he's being very strict on, you know, the timing, making sure that all the construction work is done before the wine club gets here. And he's very sort of
Yeah.
straight with him, which I like. I like someone who can handle Frasier.
Yeah. No, that's true. He is good. He is good at that.
So yeah, okay. No, I gave it a very high 4. I did almost settle for a 5, but not quite.
Yeah.
That's a shame. No, I think it's worth more than a 2.
I
I think it's worth at least a 3, but
maybe I just don't vibe with it. It's not. Yeah.
not a vibey one.
Not a vibey one.
Not a vibey one. Well, episode 6. See if you vibe with this one anymore. No, I don't think no. It's our second 2-parter of the show after Adventures in Paradise in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 2-title 2-parter. So it is technically separate, but they're tied together. Sleeping with the Enemy, which is then followed by, spoiler alert for next week, The Adventures of Bad Boy and Dirty Girl.
Yes.
Which is a great title.
It is a funny title.
But Sleeping with the Enemy sets up... Yeah, so this episode basically sets up Frasier and Kate's relationship.
Yeah.
And establishes that a bit further. The KCL staff, excluding the on-air talent, so all the off-air, the producers, the staff, are not getting their raise this year. Mm-hmm. From management, but via Kate.
Yeah.
They have been given this news. And understandably, they're not very happy about it, because I think it's implied that it's in their contract as well.
Yeah.
At least Frasier says it's in his contract, so I presume the reason they're so upset about it is that it's in their contract as well. And the whole episode sort of surrounds this inter-office dispute with Kate. Frasier tries to rally the on-air talent to stand up to Kate, to go on strike. Roz and Frasier both try and sort out the off-air talent and get them together and make a brick wall to stand up against the evil Kate, who's taking away their raises. But unfortunately, for everyone involved, Frasier and Kate get into it a wee bit, and it turns out they have feelings for each other.
Yeah. The arguing turns into making out on Kate's desk.
Yep.
This is an alright episode, I think.
I like it.
I like
okay.
I like bits of it, but I'm not. I think overall it's just not got much in it that I particularly enjoy. It has one or two hilarious lines. There's when Frasier has all of the on-air talent round for a little cocktail party at his house to try and convince them to go on strike. Niles arrives at the door and says like, "Oh well, you're having a cocktail party without me." Right as Martin walks over with a tray of order cocktail sausages and says, "Feel like a wiener, Niles." Excuse me, kicking the table. Which is very funny, and there's some good. I think Noel is very funny in this.
Noel Shemsky is one of the highlights of this episode for me.
He is a weenie.
he's the original leader of the rebellion, basically against Kate. Before Frasier steps in, and he they go into like sort of test it, or they sort of Frasier says something, and Noel steps up and says like, "Yeah, what do you think of that, pal?" And then he starts laughing during it. He's obviously trying to sound tough, and he's obviously doing it to impress Roz.
Yeah,
he's got a crush on Roz, and he's just trying to do it to impress her. But he establishes that he is able to faint on command.
I kind of wish this came up again later on.
I really do. Yeah,
in later episodes,
he just kind of faints in front of everyone. And when Frasier does go and confront Kate eventually, she says, "Oh, you're leading the things now. Oh, it's a shame. I wanted to see Shemsky faint." Which would just be great. And I think that's actually the post credits as well. The credit sequence is Noel is having a dream about confronting Kate, and he doesn't faint. He actually wins the argument and then struts outside and kisses Roz. Yeah, and they live happily ever after. But it's obviously just a dream. Just
a dream.
Poor Noel. It's got some really good lines.
It does have some good lines.
There's Kate standing up. I think I said this before. When after they've kissed, Frasier goes back into her office.
Yeah.
And tries to. Oh, is it after actually? Anyway, either way, he's in her office and they're trying to figure out why they have so much antagonism toward each other. And she says, "I know why. Because I'm a woman. Because I'm as smart as you, and because I'm your boss."
Yeah.
And I really love that.
Yeah.
I really love how sort of strong and straight to the point she is. And just having a female rival to Frasier.
Yeah. It's true.
Is really
it's
nice to see.
Very good.
Yeah, and when Niles makes another one of his entrances, looking completely dishevelled, and falls through the door and says, "Maris found a grey hair." So he's obviously been dealing with her for however long, which is really great. And the last one, which is one that I really love, and it's not necessarily true, but just Kelsey Grammer's delivery of it, and it's one of the few like iconic and memorable lines from the show. Daphne says something like, "Oh, don't try and pretend that men have never used sex to get what they want." And Frasier turns around and says, "How can we possibly use sex to get what we want? Sex is what we want." Which is not always the case, but it's a funny. Really funny delivery.
It is a funny line.
It's a really good line as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's said as Frasier goes off, and that rounds off the episode. Frasier back in Kate's office, and the two of them going at it again.
Yeah.
And that it's sort of a semi cliffhanger. It's the end of the episode, but it is left on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. They kind of have this. What's going to happen now that Frasier's getting off with the boss?
And I'll admit, I don't really remember what happens in the second part. No,
not exactly. I remember bits of it.
You'll have to tune in next week, and we'll find out. But no, it's a pretty decent episode. I think it's got some nice moments. So I gave it a middle of the road. I gave it a 3.
There's something now. I gave it a 3 as well, and I was tempted to give it more, but there's a reason that I'm not giving it anymore, and I'm keeping it at a 3.
Okay,
is that there's something in this episode that always annoys me when I watch it. Every time I watch it, and I'm a big old nerd, and every time I watch it, and it really bugs me, is when they're all of the off-air talent are trying to convince Frasier to stand up to Kate. And he says, "Oh, well, I don't know if I can," and this and that, and whatever. And Noel comes forward, Noel being a big Trekkie, comes forward and quotes Star Trek.
Yep.
And he says, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one," which is a quote from Star Trek Wrath of Khan, right? And he attributes it to Captain Kirk. And Captain Kirk never said that. That was Spock. Spock says it, not Kirk. He gets it wrong. He gets the quote wrong.
Doesn't Kirk say it in the J.J. Abrams remix?
Oh, I suppose he might do, but that was about 13 years later. So
maybe Noel's a clairvoyant.
Maybe he is.
Maybe he knew what was coming.
Maybe he is.
No, I mean that's fair for the time. That's a pretty big oversight, to be honest.
It is.
Considering the quality of the writing and how much dedication they put into Noel being a Trekkie.
Yeah.
It's not the last time that comes up as well.
Oh, no, definitely not.
There's actually a whole episode dedicated to him being a Trekkie.
There is. It's a very good episode.
Which is, it's really good.
Yeah. So, that bugs me a bit.
Fair enough.
It always annoys every time I hear it. It always annoys me. And the inflection when he says, the way he says it is really weird. I don't know what it is about his delivery of the quote.
I think he's not an amazing actor.
I don't know if it, or maybe it's just that he's showing Noel being very uncomfortable.
I don't know. He either plays being awkward really, really well, or he doesn't and gets the same result just by being awkward himself.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't remember the actor's name.
Patrick Kerr.
Patrick Kerr, yeah. So he's either great or not great, and I don't know which. We love you, Patrick Kerr. Please come on the podcast. I do love Noel. I think Noel's great.
He is a great character, yeah.
But yeah, his awkwardness is a bit off-putting sometimes. Yeah, okay. So what did you say for this? How many cups of coffee?
I gave it a 3 as well.
You gave it a 3 as well.
I gave it a 3. I was tempted to give it higher, but misquoting Star Trek is
That's a big no.
that's a -1 cup of coffee offense in my book.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see how the second part goes and see how that ranks compared to our first two-parter, which I think was pretty low.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. I'm not really big on Adventures in Paradise, which is a shame because it does have. Well, I did mention before that it has Jo Beth Williams.
Jo Beth Williams
is a good guest actress,
and Lilith, and
it's got Lilith, and I always love Lilith. So yeah, I think this little pair of episodes is probably going to be better than Adventures in Paradise.
Well, we'll see.
I did forget the guest caller that I'm guessing is the one you were thinking of.
Yes, this is
a
the
very
one
recognizable name, Laura Dern.
Yes,
I love Laura Dern. I
Lovely
think she's
Laura
great.
Dern.
She's fantastic. From Jurassic Park, I suppose, very famous for Jurassic Park. And she was in Marriage Story recently with Scarlett Johansson.
Won a supporting Oscar for that, did she
I think she might have done, yeah.
Yeah. At least nominated, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the lovely Laura Dern. She just seems like a lovely person.
She
does.
does.
I don't think she just seems like the person that you would just sit and chill with.
Mm-hmm.
She just seems so nice.
She does seem pretty cool.
Yeah. Lovely Laura Dern. Now, before we finish up for this episode, there's one thing that I want to bring up with you.
Uh-huh.
When Frasier takes over control of the group, he takes over from Noel, and he ushers Roz into the next room.
Yeah.
He calls her Rosalinda.
Yeah.
Is that her full name?
I don't know. Could be.
Because I never noticed that before. And my whole world's shattered. Because I always thought it was just Roz Doyle.
Yeah. I would have thought so.
So is
Rosalinda's a bit of
Is it a nickname or is it a...
weird name?
I mean, it is, but like... it's definitely an uncommon name, but is Roz the nickname or is Rosalinda the nickname?
I have no idea.
Maybe we need to investigate.
Do you think that's what gave Noel the idea for the name that he uses for his Star Trek fan character?
When is that? Is that this season? Or is it later on?
Oh, I can't remember actually what episode it's in.
He writes a bit of fanfic surrounding Roz. It's very uncomfortable.
It's the next disc.
Is it?
It's in The Last Time I Saw Maris.
Is it? Okay.
Which is only in a couple of episodes, actually. I think
it's episodes time.
Not the next episode, but the one after.
That's a good episode. Looking forward to going over that with you.
That is a good episode.
Yeah. But yeah, that's disc 1 of season 3.
Yeah.
Out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot better than I remember it, which is always refreshing.
Yeah. So you've already said that you have a highlight for the disc.
I think it has to be.
I've forgotten what it is already.
I think it has to be the scene in She's the Boss when Niles rocks up with the starter's pistol.
Yeah, no, that is funny.
And sets it off.
Opens the door and he just pulls it out of the little case.
It's so good. That whole scene is just, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Just everyone trying not to crack up with laughter.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it in everyone's faces. They're trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So yeah, that's definitely my highlight.
That's your highlight. Yeah. My highlight is it's another Niles bit. It is in Leapin Lizards. About halfway through the episode, so after Frasier has been humiliated on air singing the Mikado, Niles shows up and is talking to Martin, and Martin kind of says like, "Oh, did you need to hear about what happened to Frasier?" And he says, "Oh no, I heard it on Bulldog's show." And Martin kind of says like, "Why were you listening to Bulldog's show?" And he says, "Oh, you know me, Dad. I can't sleep at night until I hear who hurled what ball through what apparatus." And I find that so, as someone who just doesn't give a shit about sports, I find that so relatable.
That's a very you response as well. I don't know if it was inspired by Niles, but I can so picture you saying that
definitely
to someone who's, questioning your love of sports.
Definitely.
With that kind of sarcastic tone as well. But there we go. That's it's got some good moments. It's got some really good moments. Let's not forget she's such a groovy lady as well, which is good. One of the few musical moments of the show. There's a few more.
There are others,
but this is probably, I don't know if it is the best. It's definitely the most fun.
Yeah,
I think it's such a lovely tribute to Martin, and it's such a nice little ditty. So yeah, a good start to season 3. Let's keep it. Oh, excuse me. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Let's hope that the episode quality stands up. And yeah, we will see you next week. Have a great day and good mental health. And thanks for listening. I think I messed up the order again.
Probably. We need to write it down.
I need to like stick it on a post-it on your head so that I can see it.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys, and good mental health. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.